Rabbitohs Radio Podcast, the number one source for everything South Sydney Rabbitohs.
Welcome to another edition of Rabbitohs Radio. My name is Grant Chappell, joined by my loyal coach and friend, Darren Brownie. Brown, he's been a bit MIA lately, Brownie. Where you been, mate? Tell the viewers where you've been.
Yeah, g'day, chaps, and g'day to all the viewers out there. Yeah, like you said, missing in action. Been on the work roster for the past couple of weeks. You know what it's like out there when it's time to work. You've got to put in the hours, and that's what I've been doing over the last couple of weeks. Been on the night shift. It's been very cold, but let me tell you, Brendan Taliski's been doing an amazing job filling in for me. And who knows? I might have a job in a couple of weeks, chaps.
Well, he might be on tonight, Brendan. He's been on to me this morning. He's pretty keen to get back on. Talk about a team list Tuesday. But don't worry about that. We'll worry about that when it happens. We're going to little recap that thriller, Golden Point thriller from Saturday night against the mighty Melbourne Storm. And we're also going to chat about a little bit more about that amazing streak that Alex Johnston's on, 206 tries and counting. A bit more about that record. And just have a chat. Where's Lewis Dodd at the moment? There's been a lot of questions online. You know, what's going on? Has South mistreated him? What's happening with him? Is he going to go? We'll have a chat about that and a bit about those pathways teams have played a triple header out there at Acorn Saturday night. But straight into the main game, Brownie. We started a little bit slow. The Storm were out 12-0 lead. How did you see that one, mate?
Yeah, well, who would have thought, chaps, after the start that Melbourne got 12-0 after 6 or 7 minutes, that we'd come back. We showed a lot of tenacity and a lot of fight to get back into the game. Admittedly, Melbourne, they made a lot of errors, uncharacteristic errors from Melbourne Storm. I think they made 10 errors in the first half. Now, let me tell you, Melbourne don't normally make 10 errors in 3 games. So, yeah, we did extremely well to put ourselves in a position to win the game. Look, we never got the 2 points, but I'm sure the boys will be happy with the performance, especially testing Melbourne all the way to Golden Point. But at the end of the day, we're still sitting second last on the table, and we need to start winning games.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those ones where it could have been, you go back a few weeks and the Tigers had a similar slow start against the Storm and they ended up beating them 64-0. So you can see that the fight in the boys, even though, look, we had a lot of errors in the first half as well. I think Latrell had a couple of errors. Ewan Aitken was knocked one on. He got dragged over the sideline. Jai Arrow got stripped from Nelson. We didn't play the perfect first half ourselves, completion rate wise. But we're able to just graft out one of those typical Latrell Mitchell tries where he mesmerised the defence, waves that ball around, and he was able to do it on 3 occasions with 3 unbelievable cutout passes to Alex Johnston. The first one was just a straight catch and pass without looking. The next 2 were double pump, get far longer to bite in and go over the top. And AJ, just that perfect timing of Alex Johnston to go over and score. The other one, game was on the line, tackle 3. He threads the needle with a kick. Melbourne Storm bloke slips over and Munro goes over and scores. So Latrell Mitchell, big performance coming back from over in Perth. There's travel time. Had to come back, and he had a big influence on that game.
Oh, without a doubt, chaps. If Latrell doesn't play, we're not in that position to win the game. And like you said, 4 try assists, I think it was, 3 to AJ and 1 to Ty Munro. But what impressed me about Latrell was his kick return carries and his involvement in carrying the ball, chaps. I thought he was outstanding. He really ran with vigour, and I don't know what Wayne said to the boys at half time, and because they came out with intent. They went after the game. They were in a position to win the game, and they knew that. And, they came out with a lot of effort. You could really tell with the first set after half-time that the boys were going to go after that game, and it's exactly what they did. And like you just indicated, Latrell Mitchell was outstanding. 3 of them tries were a carbon copy of each other. Just cut out balls to AJ, and like you said, AJ just puts himself in the right position to score them tries every time.
Yeah, well, like get into halftime 12-4 down, you're walking in with your tails up. Melbourne are seething. Like Bellamy was marching around in that box and he wasn't too happy, old Craig, about the way his team played, and probably fair enough, you know what I mean? They weren't at their very best, but there was also, as they were bringing Harry Grant off the field, Lara Pitt grabbed him and had a chat to him, and he said, "Look, our completion rate." He goes, "But give South defense a bit of credit. They rushed our time and they forced us into some errors too." So he was happy to give South a little bit of a rap there, Harry Grant. Look, after half time, we sort of got those couple of quick tries and we led 14-12, and with a big cheesy grin from Latrell after he finally kicked one of those sideline conversions. They're tough conversions. Latrell's been kicking at 84% coming into that game. He's our number one goal kicker. Forget all the questions online who's goal kicking. Forget all that. But what about getting over to Alex Johnston, where he's at now? 206 tries. The record's 212. He's 6 behind it, 7 to break it. He's also equalled the most tries in all 3 grades by a player. 219 tries in all 3 grades. Ken Irvine holds that record, of course. He scored 3 tries for the Bears when they were our Reggie's team and 10 tries for NYC. And Ken Irvine was a little bit opposite. He scored a couple more in reserve grade than 3rd grade. So there's another record that's tumbled. Accor Stadium, 92 tries in 97 games. Most tries at a single venue. That's another record that's tumbled there. He's just something very, very special, Brownie. And the Souths are gonna have to start looking at what's going to happen if he breaks it this year in 4 games, 5 games, 6 games, 7 games, whatever. Are they going to allow the fans to come on the field and celebrate it, depending on where it's at, like they did with Buddy Franklin up here in the AFL?
Yeah, I'm sure that the Rabbitohs would have something in mind. I'm sure they'd have some plans ready to go, because I think this try record is going to happen sooner rather than later, chaps. I think he's on a roll now. I'm sure all the boys will be looking to go down that lethal left side every time we get in the attacking opportunity. And don't be surprised if AJ scores it or breaks that record in the next couple of weeks.
Well, I mean, does the NRL step in and put a bit of pressure on South to rest a game if it's an away game, for example? Do they say we're playing St George and he's equalled the record at 212? Do they just line it up so he can try and break the record there at Accor Stadium against the Dragons later in the season? We've only got one more game at Accor Stadium, Brownie. Not sure if you're aware of that. One more home game. The rest are home games in different positions, like Central Coast. Allianz Stadium is a home game against Para. That'd be a great one to break it. They're playing up in Queensland a couple of times as well before the season's out. So, look, who knows where he's going to break it or when he's going to break it. But just exciting, and it's a huge moment for the game. Can the NRL, behind the scenes, we don't really celebrate records in NRL. Not many come to mind of a record of this magnitude. So it's a bit of a first for the NRL. This is a 50-year record. I think it's important for not just South, the game, to do something and celebrate it.
Yeah, certainly, chaps. And without a doubt, it's a massive, massive milestone. They've actually got the try scorer, the leading try scorer of the year, named after, the all-time best try scorer in Ken Irvine. So does that name change as well? Does it become the Alex Johnston medal? But going back to your point, do we miss a week? I don't think so. Our 2 points is more important than records at this stage, although it is a very important milestone for AJ and the club and the game itself. I don't think they'll be missing out, missing games or anything like that, because we need to win games, and if that means Alex Johnston playing up at Suncorp, I'm sure that's what's going to happen. But yeah, really looking forward to when he does break that record. It's going to be a huge milestone for both AJ and his family, and to do it at one club as well, chaps. It's an amazing feat.
It certainly is, mate. And look, going on to some of the other performers in the game, I thought Jai Arrow, from just a energy standpoint, done some nice carries, but geez, his defence and his leadership, the tackle before half-time where they'd done enough to score, he's come over and barreled the bloke over the sideline and then stood over him and absolutely give it to him on top of him, mate. He had some big plays in the game, Jai Arrow, and that's what we want to see from our leaders.
Well, we certainly do, chaps. He's one of them players that he plays with his heart on his sleeve, and you can tell by that after the game. There was a lot of reports that he just went off after full time, straight up the tunnel, didn't shake anyone's hand. Look, if he had that moment again.
You're old school, Brownie. You'd love that.
Yeah, well, I do. You know what I mean? If he had that moment again, obviously, I'm sure he'd like to stay on the field and shake hands. But all this, talking to players after the game, laughing and joking, I'm not about that. I'm all for what Jai did. Admittedly, like I just said, he probably should have stayed around and shook the hands, but then get up the tunnel and think about, where you could have won that game. He plays with his heart on his sleeve, and like you said, chaps, he's just an effort player. And that tackle before half-time, that put us in a position to come out after half-time with a lot of confidence and a lot of energy. The way we started that second half was on the back of that try-saving tackle.
Well, you don't have to go back to last year, I think. We were in a well-beaten side most weeks, but Jai hung around till, was it Dolphins game, about round 15, before he had that shoulder surgery. Pure team play. He done that early in the season. I think it was a tackle 2 in Vegas or something like that, right in front of me. He'd done his shoulder. And he played through the pain and needled up and done all that for his teammates. And you can't just go out and sign someone like that. I know he's not the fastest, or his stats don't look that great on paper. He's not going to run for 200 metres or set up tries, but what he does leadership-wise and shows people the way to play the game of rugby league, it's got to be played tough. You've got to stand over your opposition. There's a bit of verbally involved and trying to get it over your opposite number and fucking inspiring the young boys and that. That's what he's done. And, mate, I love the bloke. I reckon he's an absolute legend, mate. And he's welcome at South as long as he wants to stay, mate.
And like you just said, chaps, he did all that, what you just said, after he made that tackle on Anderson, because he was pumped up. He knew it was a try-saving tackle, and he wanted to show the way for the rest of the team that, hey, we're in this fight. Let's come out after half-time and give it a real good shake. And that's exactly what they did. And they tested, the title contenders in the Melbourne Storm, took them all the way to Golden Point, and probably nearly should have won the game had it not been for a couple of poor refereeing decisions.
Mate, we were the better team for the final 70 minutes, let's be honest. The first 2 tries were just basically off the kickoff practically. I mean, Aitken dropped the ball, they went bang, bang. Harry Grant's run over from dummy half, untouched. The second try was untouched. They had an offload in the middle of the field. It went bang, bang, bang down the sideline. McDonald's kicked it inside, and it was a Grant or McDonald. Anyway, and bloody the halfbacks picked it up. He didn't even be touched and went under the post. So we were sort of shell-shocked there. I think I was watching some of the players in the background. They're looking at each other, hands on hips. And I think they just regrouped from there. So let's just get into it. And, it wasn't, it wasn't perfect football for the whole game, but they just kept hanging around. Well, they knew if they could. I think they changed a few things up too. I think before half-time, I've been screaming for it on the podcast for a while. Liam LeBlanc coming on to do some defence in the middle, and his carries, he nearly does the most yards per carry from any player on the South team. He does over 10 yards a carry. And he does it from the standing start sometimes too. To get him on the field and just takes a bit of pressure off Keon in the middle there. Sean Kepi come on later, had fresher legs. They're just changing it up a little bit. Junior Totola coming on. Outstanding. Junior Totola, 191 metres from 19 carries. He was huge, Brownie. Is that his best game in 18 months, or am I dreaming?
I think it's the best he's carried the ball, chaps. Still got a few deficiencies and errors in defence, which he needs to work on. But I thought the way he carried the ball was really strong on the back of some really good go forward, and that's what we need from Junior Totola. And the other bloke you were just talking about, Liam LeBlanc, he's got really good foot speed over the first 5 or 10 metres, gets over the advantage line and takes it to the opposition, and he's a great defender. I'd just like to see Liam LeBlanc play more minutes. Come on, bring him on at the 20-minute mark. Let him play out the half. Because I think he's really good value. He adds good value to the team. He gets us going forward, and he's a really good defender. But yeah, we showed a lot of grit and a lot of tenacity to hang in there, chaps. Like you just indicated before, who would have thought the first 10 minutes? And Melbourne do that to you. They do it to any side. Not only the South Sydney Rabbitohs, they'll come out and do it to a top 4 team where they can put points on you pretty quickly. Normally they go on with the job, but this time they didn't. We hung around and put ourselves in a position to win the game, and like I indicated earlier in the show, that first set after halftime really showed that we were going to go after the game, and it's exactly what we did.
Well, Pappenhausen had a few opportunities. He was backing up Harry Grant around the middle of the field. He catches it, he scores. It went over his shoulder. There's another one where Farlongo skipped off his right foot and went to Pappenhausen. He had a catch and pass. He had two unmarked Melbourne Storm blokes on the outside. They bombed it. They knocked the ball on. There was no one in front of them. That could have been another try there. Latrell Mitchell going up and contesting the ball with Isaiah Katoa. That could have been a try. Even Humphreys taking the ball out of Munster's hand. Joy Arrow's try saver we've spoken about. There was moments there we just competed and just got in their faces, and sometimes it was a bit of luck, sometimes it was us with a bit of desire getting in their way. Keon, another 80-minute performance from Keon. I think he's just about penciled himself into the New South Wales side, even maybe as a starter in the middle. You know, give him 20 minutes off the bat, get him off, bring him on for a second spell. 40 minutes might be the sweet spot for Keon. You're not going to play him 80 minutes in Origin because he fatigued a bit in this match at the back end. Couple of his feet can't get where he wants to be in defence. His arm was a little bit lazy. Gave away a penalty late in the game. That was purely fatigue, Brownie, because he just gets out there and plays 26 carries in the 80 minutes again. He's a real. They're calling him the Iron Man now on TV there, so and he's probably earned that nickname.
Yeah, and I heard a few of the media outlets talking yesterday about it. No, not so much Keon, but other front rowers that play 80 minutes saying that they'll burn out, sooner rather than later. And that's exactly what's going to happen with Keon if we don't start resting him through periods of the game. And look, don't get me wrong, I bet you Keon wants to stay out there for the 80 minutes, and that's what you do as a player. As a professional sportsman, you want to be playing just about every minute of that game. And it'd be interesting to see if he does get picked in Origin and he starts that game, chaps, because like we just spoke about, he's not going to play the full 80, and it'd be good to see the impact that he has having a couple of different spells throughout the game.
Yeah, fair. I'm not sure. I mean, they'll be named this Sunday night or Monday. I think they name teams now. I still reckon that's a missed opportunity. They should do all that live on a streaming channel or something like that, NRL YouTube channel. That should be all done live in conjunction. Two different, you get given our allocation to New South Wales and our allocation to Queensland. I don't know, it's just a waste of space these days, the way they do it.
There should be a press conference with both coaches naming their teams. One to 19 or 1 to 21 these days. They pick 20-something players in the squad, and it should be named, like you said. It should be announced. Should be a big press conference. I'm sure
they should call out the kid's junior club and the club he's playing for now. Bang. You give everyone gets a plug there. People have been involved in this kid getting into where he is or whoever, or could be a veteran player. Anyway, there's a couple of things we should do better in the game. The halves combo, Brownie, the 8th half combo. I think he got better as the game went on, Jack White, because he's a real run first 5'8", and that sort of helped in the second half. Instead of just tipping on sideways, you can't do that against Melbourne. They'll run you over the sideline. I mean, I think we got run over the sideline a couple of times, but thoughts on that halves combo? Jamie Humphreys, not a traditional half, Brownie. Plays more like a forward or a running back rower or something like that.
Yeah, well, it's no secret. It's not helping our cause, is it, chaps? Our 8th halves pairing in 16 weeks. So just on average, we're swapping our halves every second week, and just doesn't give us any stability there, any area to build some confidence and some combinations. So I think there was a period there early on in the season where we swapped our halves pairing probably 5 weeks in a row. And how does that, build confidence and build combinations in your team and looking to win games? It's very, very hard. And look, I thought they did a job, and like you just indicated, Humphreys is not that natural halfback. He's a running half. He's a big body. But does he stay there moving forward when we're at full strength? I'm not sure. I'd like to see him play a little bit of 9 as well, chaps. I know he played a little bit of 9 a couple of weeks ago when he come off the bench, but I'd like to see him start at 9 and see how he goes there.
Yeah, well, you talk about the 9. Obviously, we've got some inexperienced nines there. Ryan Gray coming in and doing a pretty good job. A good defender, big body, but his passes from left to right leave a bit to be desired. He just hasn't got the spiral pass. Very good from right to left. Looks good there. So I think my mail is Peter Mamazoulis. He'll be back in the lineup. He's training pretty much in full last week. They just give him an extra week. I think that just might give him a little bit more direction. Get him to roll the ruck a little bit, get out and take the ball to the line and dump it off to a forward. I think he's got that in his game. He's not really a kicker from dummy half, Pete. The two in there now hardly kick it at all anyway.
And they between don't Liver and chaps, like they had hardly any run meters.
Ryan Gray's had one run in 2 games. Liver's only had maybe one. I think he only had one run for 15 metres on the weekend. The week before, there wasn't much run thread out of dummy half. You flip the script. If Harry Graham plays for our team, Brownie, and they have Liver and Ryan Gray, who wins that game the other day?
100%, yeah. I just don't think we're getting enough out of our spine, chaps. We're not, like you indicated, our spine is the most important positions in the team, and our hooker.
Latrell's sort of playing 5'8", halfback and fullback.
He's pretty much doing it all on his own, isn't he?
Yeah.
And we need our hookers to run. We need them to get out of dummy half, engage the markers, take some pressure off our ball carriers. And I just don't think we're doing that. Look, you just indicated that Pete's coming back. If it's not this week, hopefully it'll be next week. And he was starting to build some confidence, Pete. His running game was good. He was starting to get out of dummy half. He was starting to be a little bit creative out of dummy half. And that's what we want from our number 9. And don't forget Brandon Smith. He's not too far away, and that'll be a good 1-2 punch.
Yeah, he's only about 3 or 4 weeks away, I think, Brandon Smith. Depending on how and where he's going. Haven't seen him around the building. He's probably doing a lot of stuff inside at the moment. Hasn't been out on the field as yet. Anyway, speaking of the halves there, Brownie in the hooker position, a lot of questions about Lewis Dodd. He got named last week for whatever reason, but I don't think he was ever going to play. I went down there and trained on Wednesday, and he didn't look like he was in the first team reps or anything like that. Cody pulled out. They ended up going with Jack Wyden. I think with him, I think he's a good little kicker. I've watched most of his games. I called his game the other day. He doesn't seem to go anywhere near the defensive line when he gets the ball, Brownie. It's a bit of a concern. I think Wayne's probably just, people talk about mental health. Well, you've got a duty of care. Now, if you put him in a first grade against the Melbourne Storm side and they murdered his side in defence and, exposed him for the player that he's not quite at NRL level at the moment, what do you think the fans are going to do, Brownie? They're ruthless NRL fans. They will give it to him, and then you've got a real concern on your hands for mental health. So I think the Rabbitohs are doing the right thing. I'll read out some stats, right? He's had 3 runs for 15 metres on the weekend, 2 post-contact metres, right? The week before, 9 runs, 38 metres, 3 post-contact metres. Does that sound like an NRL half that's going to threaten the line?
Well, and that's what we're just talking about. Like,
it's not. It's not fair on him to play him, and they're doing the right thing by Lewis. He might develop into a really good player one day, but at the moment, he's just not quite there.
Yeah, from the games that I've watched, chaps, it's exactly what you're saying. I haven't watched all his games in New South Wales Cup, but I've watched a fair few of them, and he's just not standing out as he should be. Like you said, he's got a nice little kicking game, but his running game's not there. He doesn't take control of the team. He doesn't lead the team around the park. Just not a natural halfbacks game. And, that might come with confidence, but, people are calling for him to be, named as 7 in the NRL team, but I'm not sure whether they've been watching the New South Wales Cup games, because if they were...
They haven't. The people who are have not. It's pretty clear they haven't.
Well, if they
no NRL coach in the league is going to play him. No one of those 17 coaches would have played him any more than what he's played this year.
And I feel for him, you know what I mean? Because he'd be busting his ass at training, trying to get better week in, week out. And like you said, it might be just a confidence thing. Hopefully he can find his feet over the next couple of weeks, because I think he really needs to, or then make a decision whether he's comfortable just playing New South Wales Cup, or whether, he looks for another opportunity elsewhere.
Well, the Ashton Ward he wouldn't be 80 kilos, Ashton Ward. It's ringing wet. Now, he takes the line on. He dominated all the calls, and he's playing 5'8". He played like a halfback on the weekend. The week before, he had to do the same thing. He's a real dominant half, Ashton Ward. I've not like any or young Luke Keary, that style player. Got a good kicking game on, a great kick chase. All the little 1%ers. Obviously, he's small, so he gets targeted in defense. Like guys like Tim Johansson were real dominant. They almost played like a playmaker's role there because Louis just hangs back a bit. He sort of doesn't get too involved, you know. So that's something he'll be working on. Anything else on that game, Brownie, besides the fact that, you know, that Pappenhausen got that one chance and just iced it. Good pressure from Junior Totola. Got to give him a rap in overtime to get up there. He wasn't far off blocking that field goal.
Well, we blocked the first one, didn't we? And then they got another opportunity. That ball could have bounced anywhere when I think it was Keon who rushed out of the line and charged down their first attempt. And you know, Melbourne being Melbourne, the luck went their way at the right time. And they got another opportunity, and yeah, Pappenhausen just iced it. They went to go one play earlier, but Harry Grant, he got rushed and believed he probably couldn't get a quick ball to Pappenhausen, so he took the tackle. Wishart jumped in the dummy half and just spiraled it out the back to Pappenhausen, who just nailed it. And look, we had an opportunity. Latrell Mitchell nearly clutched the big play again. He said on social media, sometimes you ice them, sometimes you don't. And unfortunately, he didn't this time. And I wish he would have. And, we would have had the 2 points. Everyone would have been talking about the Rabbitohs. But unfortunately, he couldn't ice it this time. But Latrell was huge in the game. And, it's disappointing because it was a thrilling contest.
Yeah. It was a great performance there from the Melbourne Storm in that overtime. They're just a team that I ice every moment. They don't muck around, you know what I mean? So good hats off to them. At the end of the day, we weren't good enough. Referee decisions probably were a bit of a factor, but at the end of the day, you got to start better than 12 block, Brownie, and we just didn't look in the contest early against the Bulldogs. Same thing. They found their elbows and knees of dogs, and that lightning doesn't come. It might have been a different story. So we've got to get better in those areas. But the longer we go, we're closer to a win. You can just see it. Add possibly, teams aren't out yet, but Cody Walker and a few heads like that, and Pete Mamazoulis, Campbell Graham, maybe even Bud Sullivan. Look, we're heading towards a victory. Down in the lower grades, Brownie, Cup, 22 points. The Manly side put up, but it wasn't enough. We scored 24. We led 24-10. They come roaring home with Jason Saab. Every time I looked up, he was in the clear down that right-hand passage. He gave Hazen Mellors a bath out there, poor old Hazen Mellors. Didn't know where to look, but nearly ran for 300 metres on the day, Jason Saab. So we're up against a very experienced Manly side with Lachlan Croker, sorry. There was a number of first-grade players in their team. And the unheralded Rabbitohs team, guys like Daniel O'Donnell, a second week in a row, he's had a couple of try assists, scored a try, very dynamic hooker. Probably hasn't got the defensive game of Ryan Gray. It's on the opposite side there. The boys have had 3 straight wins. Tim Johansson, another 80-minute performance. He looks a first-grader, Brownie.
Yeah, he certainly does, chaps. And I only caught the back end of that game. I said at the start of the show that I've been working night shift, and you know what it's like. You've got to have them afternoon sleeps. And but first of all, congratulations, chaps. You called both them games out there at A-Call on Bar TV. You did a tremendous job. Like I said, I heard the last 20 minutes of the Cup. I watched pretty much all of the Jersey flag, and you've done a tremendous job. Didn't miss a beat. Who knows, mate? Fox might be giving you a call very shortly, mate. Outstanding job calling them games.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. There was a quick turnaround between flag and cup, so there wasn't a lot of time to even go to the toilet and write your list out. I think the game started. I didn't even have the Manly team written down, so I had to battle on there. But anyway, always good opportunities with
commentator, and I got the flick because I didn't have a media pass. But that is all getting sorted, chaps, and we'll be back together as a duo on our next occasion.
Well, it's just more because that stadium, their security was pretty heavy. I couldn't even get in the joint. I had to get shout out to Bronte Fulton from South Media Team to let me in, and otherwise I wouldn't have got in the joint till probably 10 minutes before kickoff of that third grade. So yeah, that's those stadiums. They've got to have the good security and that. And yeah, it was just a long way away. I was on the binoculars the whole time, but anyway, that's the way it goes, mate.
But just going back to the game, chaps, like I indicated, I only watched the last 20 minutes, but the boys did extremely well, and They were going down Jason Saab's side. They were creating a lot of opportunities, but they just couldn't turn it to points. The boys kept digging in. They kept turning up. They kept scrambling in defence, and they held on for a 2-point win. And to win 3 in a row for them boys is outstanding, and they're on a bit of a roll now.
Yeah, they are. They're still anchored at the bottom of the table, but they're only sort of 1 win away from coming 8th as well. They're kind of right at the bottom, second last, but there's a bit of condense of teams, 5 or 6 teams on 5 wins. So yeah, look, we'll see what happens. A couple of them got draws, and
that's similar.
Might have a bit of advantage, but
similar to the end.
Good. Well done to Snoopy Collins. It's been a tough year for him with player availability and injuries with the first grade, and he's his centre pairing of Carson Cajo and Lenny Skelton, not big names, but they really did a good job there. Harry O'Kane's jumping off the bench, and Osi, the front rower, he goes good. Sammy Tovai. These are not huge names in the NRL, but they're coming out and beating a team that had 300 or 400 NRL games of experience.
Well, we've said it before on the show, chaps. When you have a huge injury crisis like we have over the last couple of years, it filters all the way down through your grades, and it is really affecting the New South Wales Cup. The Jersey Flag have got the ability to bring up some players from the pathway system. The SG ball, which has only finished, probably 6 or 7 weeks ago, but. Some of these players have been playing A-grade football, chaps, and some of these players that were brought midway through the season just to fill the hole. And, like you said, they're doing a really good job, and some of them names you just mentioned, people wouldn't have even heard of. So,
guys like Javier Pituvaya, like he was playing in the Q Cup up in Queensland. We've got him down, Amaron Gadjion. I think he's a WA boy. He's coming out of the Melbourne Storm system and St. George. Tim Johansson, unwanted at the Tigers. We've grabbed those 3 guys, and they've really grabbed the opportunities with both hands. And look, who knows? We might finish with a bit of a flurry here and make the top 8 in that grade with guys like your Cheese coming back and your Cody Walkers and all those top 17 guys might drop back and make it even more strong. We even lost that Penatani. Penatani's out for 6 to 8 weeks with a pretty bad hamstring injury from last week, and he was going well, Penatani. So anyway, they'll keep swinging. The boys
every week we come up against teams, chaps, that they've got 300 or 400 NRL games experience, and we've probably got around the 50 to 100, and that's happened on more than 4 or 5 occasions.
Yeah, it has. And they've been competitive, fairly competitive. A couple of games have been blown out here and there. Parramatta were pretty tough that day when we called it. But, the Jersey Flag, they played Manly as well. And, it was the story of the day was probably Alvarez, the 580s, a very promising player. He seems to be able to cut teams apart. They won 24-4 there. There was a debut from Harrison Rook, a really hard-working lock forward. There's probably half a dozen blokes who are only 18. I think Alvarez only just turned 18 recently, so
he only made his debut a couple of weeks ago.
Last week was his first game, and he's sort of guy that I don't know how he missed a chance in their 19s for Origin. Maybe that's something where he might get picked next year if he can continue to develop. If we believe you've signed him on a 4-year deal, he's in their plans. They had at the game they had Tamasi Vaitai. We signed him as a 15-year-old. He's now 17, turning 18. He's a big front rower from Queensland. Him and his mum were shown around the facility on Saturday prior to the game. They interviewed him at the post-match function. Matthew Humphries, again, a real classic halfback. Injured himself late in the game. Pretty tough guy. Seen him walk up the tunnel with a bit of a limp at the back end. Hopefully he's not out for too long, or if he's out at all. But there was just some guys that really put their hand up, and they're playing some good football.
Yeah, well, we just spoke about the spine early on in the top grade, chaps, but this spine is connecting beautifully, and I really like the look of the hooker, Riley Frame. I thought he was outstanding in that game. He runs the ball. He's very quick out of dummy half. He gives great service off the deck. And Taj Alvarez, well, I was only informed yesterday that I played with his dad at the Brighton Seagulls. And his old man had a little stint over in the UK with the Rochdale Hornets and the Widnes Vikings. So, shout out to you, Sean. I didn't know that until Scotty Franks from work yesterday told us that we played with him at the Brighton Seagulls. So, just a little bit of info there, chaps, on Taj's old man.
Rugby league in his blood there, yeah. And Matty Humphries, his half partner, speaking of his father, Greg, on the way in, his younger brother and his mum, and make great family. And it's like they're pretty grounded there. They've got long-term future plans for these two young fellas. So look, it's not all bad and doom and gloom. Louis Dodd probably hasn't developed the way we've wanted to at the moment. That's not the end of the world. You got some guys coming and knocking on that door, and they won't be far away. Charlie Point, another great performance from this fullback. Again, playing 18 years of age, playing up a couple of years. Not sure what that alarm is in the background there, Brownie. But
Can't even hear it.
Okay, sweet.
Might be a
Anyway.
Noah's Ark down at Little Bay.
Oh, no, it could be a fire alarm in this building I'm sitting out the front of. But well, you got anything else here, Brendan? Might wrap this one up, mate.
Once again, part of the spine chaps, the fullback, your 6, 7, and 9 are so important in your team, and I think that's just where we're falling down in the top grade. Our 9, 7, and 6, they're not really connecting like a really top-class outfit. And Wayne Bennett said that. He doesn't believe we're a top 4 team yet. Once we get all our troops back, Cody Walker and Brandon Smith and the pieces start to fall into place, hopefully we can have a big back end of the season. And like the New South Wales Cup, the competition table is so congested. If we win 2 in a row, we're sort of like back up near the 8. So it's not going to take much to get on a bit. To get on a roll. If we can win our next 2 games and then we got the bye, things will be on the way up, especially for the back end of the season.
Oh, for sure, mate. There's some good footy to be played still to come up. I'll do a little teamless Tuesday later on today. I've got to get off to work and get away from this. This building could be on fire in a second, Brent. I better go. All right, that might be about it for another edition of Rabbitohs Radio Podcast. Up the mighty Rabbitohs.